Thank you for joining me in the third in our experiential learning series for the summer of 2020 as we prepare for the possibility of a remote or hybrid scenario in the fall. Today we'll be talking about reflection for experiential learning. So we're going to start big picture with the whys and the hows to go about reflection for experiential learning. Talk some more specifics about the ways to do it in terms of approaches and activities and some assessment suggestions before briefly mentioning some tools that might be useful as we apply these techniques in our classrooms this fall. So why reflection? And this might seem a very obvious question, and the answers to it go back to and far beyond John Dewey in 1938 and Experience in Education, when he makes what seems perhaps an obvious point that humans learn from reflection on experience, not simply on the experience itself. And this might seem too simple to linger on, but I think it's worth remembering how busy our students are and how many demands there are upon them mentally, and that they're often not provided enough space for them to really reflect upon what they're experiencing, where these metacognitive processes occur and allow for that genuine intellectual growth. So creating intentional spaces for them to reflect can really be a key to unlock their education in these experiential settings. So it allows for students to see connections between their lived experience and the material they're covering in the classroom. It allows them to recognize the complexity of the world and recognize that there are no simple answers. It allows students to synthesize their learning and thereby make it their own, which enhances a sense and possibility for personal growth, which of course is a product of a metacognitive approach as well. So this allows them to take control of their own learning and see how they are growing intellectually and understand their own cognition through the process of intentional reflection. All of this adds up to a possibility for greatly enhanced student motivation and all of the ancillary benefits that come with a more motivated student. So given the ample reasons why we should be engaging our students in reflection about their experiential learning processes, how is an equally important question. So there are common features of quality reflection, one of which, of course, is intentionality. And this is intentionality in the way that the faculty member structures the reflection and in the way the student goes about it. So it needs to connect directly to learning outcomes. The experiences the students are engaged in should connect to learning outcomes, and therefore the reflection should connect back to those as well. And these should be explicitly described to the students, both in terms of the structure and the purpose of the reflections. Generally speaking, I think you can describe reflection in its simplest form as engaging in three questions. What is the first level? So this can be a description of what happened, a description of some experience, before you move to the next level of so what? This is a connection to course material, to a prior experience. Students begin to see the significance of the experience. And then at the third level, now what? How does this experience and the connections that you have made to prior material, how does that change your understanding of the topic? How does that changed understanding change the way that you will act going forward? And then iterating those three questions and moving up in terms of the critical nature, the analytical nature with which students are answering those questions through the iterations, and the depth to which they are going through those questions as well. So very simple questions, but they can lead to very complex outcomes when applied to the experiences students are having. So moving to more specifics of approaches and activities that can be useful, one that I like is the letter to yourself. So in this you can often pair a letter to your future self with a letter to your past self. So you can, early in the term, have a student craft an email to send to themselves, their future self, about their expectations for the experience or for the course. They can then use the send later feature in their email server and have it send at some later date that is close to the end of the term. So then it will arrive in their inbox at the perfect time for them to then write a letter to their past self in response, describing their actual experience. And this is really great fodder for a deep reflection about the way in which they have grown and in their experiences have changed their expectations by providing those kind of two yardsticks via that activity. Journals might be the thing that comes to mind most readily when you think of structured reflection, and I do think that the structure is important, whichever structure you choose. So you can do a 3-part journal, which closely mirrors the what, so what, and now what structure I mentioned previously, but in this you can start with a description as the first part, the second part of analysis of how that experience relates to the content, and then the third part of the 3-part journal is the application of how this can be applied to a personal or professional life setting. Another structure is a critical incident journal, and this is good for a community-based learning or some sort of lengthy experiential learning sequence where student behavior is really a key factor for reflection. So in this, the student selects what they deem to be a significant experience and then talk about why it was significant to them, what they learned from it, and how it will influence their behavior in the future, what new actions or steps they will take the next time they encounter that incident. So it's really useful in helping to foreground their behavior as part of this experience that they're going through. An image journal can be non-textually based, or it can be a mixture of text with visual imagery, which can kind of unlock different levels and different types of reflection, especially if you're having an experience that is out in the world in an image-rich environment. Or it can be kind of a reflection of how a particular experience made someone feel, even if it's more of a digital experience. Reflection circles, I think, are a good option, especially in a remote or hybrid scenario. Breakout rooms work really well for reflection circles. They should be structured, and they can be structured around some slightly modified version of the what, so what, now what questions, and you can provide just a little structure for the students and then have one report out on how that breakout room worked, and that can really enhance kind of the understanding of the diversity of experiences and perspectives on the experiences that people are having in the course. In a learning process, reflection asks similar sorts of questions, but about the learning that the students are doing explicitly. So, what did you learn? How did you learn it? Why did it stand out? Those sorts of things can make the metacognitive side of this really apparent to students if that's something you're trying to unlock for them. Complexity maps really reflect this idea that there are no simple answers, but can lead to rich understandings of the complexities and contradictions inherent in kind of real-world problems. So in this, students are encouraged to select a topic and then draw a map of related topics, issues, and factors, and then get together with other students and compare and share their maps and look for points of overlap, possibilities for collaboration, to see a problem or an issue, a topic from multiple angles, and reflect on that complexity is really nicely facilitated by the complexity map reflections. Assessment, of course, is no one's favorite part of reflection because it is quite subjective on the part of the student. Nonetheless, it is important, just like the reflection, that the assessment of said reflection be frequent and iterative. I think oral feedback can be good on this, whether that's a very brief, like 5-minute pop-in meeting, 10-minute pop-in meeting with each student, or given via Moodle and, say, the Poodle tool on that platform. But frequent and iterative, of course, is important. It needs to go beyond completion. Of course, completing the reflective assignment is a necessary hurdle to clear, but it's insufficient. And then moving beyond completion, you need to have specific expectations in terms of what categories, what types of reflection you're looking for in order to help the students. Rubrics, of course, are very helpful here. And they should talk specifically about, say, the connections that you're hoping to see them discuss or reflect upon, critical thinking displayed in service of reflection, analytical engagement with the material and their experience, and perhaps a level of self-reflection could be requested as well. And of course, clarity always counts in any expression. Remote and hybrid tools, I would say most of the tools that we are leveraging for the remote and hybrid classrooms will have a utility as a reflection tool. So it's just about structuring them appropriately and finding the right one for your scenario. Shared documents can be a very simple way to have a iterative ongoing conversation about reflection with a student. You could share a folder and then have a living document that they update regularly and answer to those questions, perhaps modified for the specifics of the course. Moodle has some great tools along these lines. Poodle, as I suggested, is a very nice plugin that can allow for video and audio feedback and reflection. Flipgrid is another nice software choice that can be really image focused, and that can be a nice change up if people are experiencing things largely textually. E-portfolios, I'd be happy to talk more about the possibilities that e-portfolios open, but certainly reflection and iterative reflection is among them. And social media might be a low barrier, like a low barrier to entry approach to have an image-based reflection that could be, fun and engaging and meet the students where they are. You might poll the class if they would like to use a particular platform, and then everyone could create private accounts to share their reflections over the course of a semester. And of course, I've got to plug the rest of the CTL resources. The Educational Technologies site that you see listed there has a wide range of options that contain things that could meet most needs. If you have any questions, please, of course, do get in touch with us. So my final thoughts. Please see the accompanying templates and rubrics. You'll likely want to adapt them some for your scenarios, so take whatever pieces, whatever questions you think are appropriate and good, plug them into your own templates, add discipline-specific language as needed, of course. The important thing is that they be specific and clearly communicated in terms of their structure and purpose to the students. Please consider joining the Experiential Learning virtual faculty learning community in July. And I really think I can help. If you'd like to talk about reflection, it's a topic I am quite interested in. Please let me know if there's anything that I can help with for the fall, or if you just want to workshop things over the summer. Thank you.